Let's go ahead and get started, shall we? Welcome to you guys online. Welcome to you guys here in person at the Rocky Mountain Miracle Center. Thanks for coming out today. We always appreciate that, especially on a gorgeous day when you could be out playing in the sun and in the beautiful, very early spring weather that we're having. So welcome. Let's go ahead and start off today by just closing our eyes and breathing and allowing ourselves to actually be present where we are actually at. So if you haven't already, close your eyes and take a breath. And let's first thank ourselves for bringing ourselves someplace where we can hear the loving, empowering truth about ourselves. Let's thank ourselves. Thank you, higher self. Thank you, self, for loving me and bringing me here where I can hear the loving truth about myself and be around people who also want to hear the loving truth about themselves and who want to give love so that they can remember they are love. Thank you, self. And just for a moment, tune in to what it feels like to be surrounded by people whose purpose is love, whose purpose is to give love so that they can remember that they are loved. Just notice what it feels like to not be alone. Notice what it feels like to be around people of a shared purpose, a loving purpose, a healing purpose. And while we're at that, let's go ahead and tune into that self that we share, our one self, so that we can remember who we really are as one self. And of course, in Miracles gives us a prayer by which to say to help us to remember and experience our one self, our true self. And of course, in Miracles has us say to ourselves silently, I am one self, united with my Creator and at one with every aspect of creation. And so let's tune in to that one self, our true self. Breathe it in. Really enjoy that feeling of our one self, our true self. And for a moment, let yourself feel the fact that we are one self, which means that you are not alone and you are not on your own. You are connected with your source and with every aspect of creation. And so you are unlimited in your resources. You are unlimited in the love and the power and the resources that surround you. And so we're practicing accepting and feeling the truth about ourselves as one and connected with all of life. Breathe it in. And let's give thanks. Give thanks that our Creator created us connected to everyone and everything forever. Let us give thanks that our Creator has created us as sinless and guiltless and whole forever. And let us give thanks that we have remained exactly as our Creator created us, complete, whole, lacking nothing, needing nothing that we don't already have. Thank you, God. Thank you, Source. Thank you, Source, for setting it up where I cannot be without whatever I need for happiness. And thank you, God, for giving to us all of these beautiful, mighty companions whom you sent to us to make sure that we do not forget. And out of our gratitude to you, Spirit of truth, Spirit of love, we give to you this gathering of mighty companions. And we ask that you be in charge. Decide for healing for us and through us today in this gathering of mighty companions. We thank you, Spirit of truth, for this opportunity to come together with other parts of ourself, that we might hear the healing truth together and be healed together as one. Thank you, Spirit. Beautiful. And then when you're ready, just take a breath and bring your awareness back on home, back on here where your body is. All right. All right. Welcome, everybody. Okay, so where we're going to be today is in the workbook, and we're going to be doing workbook lesson 71 and 72. I'm going to be coming out of reading from lesson 71, but I'm going to be drawing in pieces from 72 because they go together in my perception. And Greg, since we read both of these lessons together yesterday, if there's anything from 72 that I haven't brought in, help me out. Okay. Okay. So the lesson title of 71 is Only God's Plan for Salvation Will Work. And here in the term salvation, I want to give you a few definitions that A Course in Miracles itself gives for salvation. When it says salvation, it doesn't mean anything like what you ever heard about what salvation meant. What we learned about salvation in the past was it entails some kind of sacrifice, right? And that's the first thing. Salvation entails a sacrifice. You're going to have to give up something like your innocence. But the Course in Miracles, the Course in Miracles has lots of definitions for salvation. And the definition for salvation that comes from the Course that I'll be using today is basically happiness. And that's a happiness that doesn't leave anything out. Okay. So it's not like I'm happy, but I'm broke, or I'm happy, but I'm sick, or I'm happy, but, it was talking about a happiness that contains it all, right? So a happiness that doesn't leave anything out. So sometimes when I see the word salvation, I just in my mind go happiness, health, and wealth. Happiness, health, and wealth, and that just means a happiness that nothing has been left out of. So I just want you to hear that. So let's say you're going through a situation where you're going through a health challenge. Then when you see the word salvation, you want to put in there health, whatever happiness would mean to you right now. That's the word you want to use so that it's applicable to you, so that you can use it and apply it for what you need today. Right. Happiness to you maybe today, like, if I felt abundant, I would feel happy. You know, like that's what happiness means to me today, to feel abundant. Or happiness may mean to you today to not feel alone, or to feel supported, or to feel loved, or whatever it is for you today that happiness might mean for you today. Put that word in there when you're using the course. This is a practical curriculum. The purpose of this curriculum is that you would practically use it for whatever you are going through right now, so that you can experience happiness right now. Okay. And that's what A Course in Miracles, and that brings me to the next point that I want to tell you in preparation for these two sections. So the Course in Miracles tells us something very radical that we don't believe yet, excuse me, and that is that God has a plan for your happiness that cannot fail. That the only thing God wants for us, A Course in Miracles says, is for us to be happy. I know that's very radical. You don't hear anywhere else that it say that God only wants you to be happy, right? Where else does it say that? Where else have you heard God's only purpose, God's only desire for you is for you to be happy? Anyone? Anyone? Anywhere else where it says the only thing God wants for you is for you to be happy? Okay, that's it. Okay, and a happiness that entails no sacrifice, a happiness that entails no loss, and a happiness that doesn't leave anything out for you to be fully happy, complete in that happiness. The Course in Miracles is the only place that says that's what God wants for you, and that's all God wants for you. And then the Course in Miracles says that not only is that all God wants for you, but the Course in Miracles says that God has a plan for your happiness that cannot fail, which means if you follow God's plan for your happiness, you can't fail to be happy. A happiness that don't leave anything out. And then it says, but if you're going to follow your plan for happiness, it can't do anything but fail. And the Course admits, because God's will for us is to be happy, that means everything in the universe, everything that's been created supports you being happy. So we live in a friendly universe, a supportive universe, a universe that has literally been created for your happiness. Really? Who knew? And so what that means is that if you are experiencing any unhappiness, any lack, anything that's making for unhappiness in your experience, it can't be because, well, there's a lack in the universe, or there's just not enough good people in the universe to love or be loved by. You know how people go, well, you know, there ain't no more good men, or there ain't no more good women out there. That's why I don't have love. No. If you are experiencing any kind of unhappiness, any kind of lack in your life, then what it means is you are following your own plan for happiness. Because if you're following God's plan for happiness, you couldn't be experiencing anything but happiness, a happiness that doesn't leave anything out. Okay, so the good news is, if you're experiencing any unhappiness, the good news is that it's not because the universe contains a lack. The good news is, if you're experiencing any unhappiness, it's because you have not been looking for happiness where it is. And that's what A Course in Miracles tells us. If you look for happiness where it is, you can't help but find it. And if you don't have happiness, it can only be because you're looking for it where it's not. Looking for love and happiness in all the wrong places. Okay, so that's the good news. Oh, okay, I thought I was unhappy because, you know, there aren't enough good people in the universe. You know, people are mean, or there's lack in the universe. You know, it can't just be that everybody has enough, right? The good news is that any kind of lack is only because you've been looking in the wrong place. Okay, and so today we're going to hear about what our plan for happiness has been. And then we're also going to hear about God's plan for our happiness that cannot fail. So we're going to hear about what it is, and we're going to hear about how to accept it, how to drop our plan for happiness, which obviously hasn't worked. Okay, if I'm not fully happy and fulfilled, what does that mean? That means my plan for happiness didn't work. It failed. And so we're going to hear how to lay down our plan and stop using it. And we're going to learn how to start using God's plan for happiness that cannot but work. It cannot fail if we but use it. That's what we're going to hear about today. Now, does that sound practical? Okay. Anybody got any unhappiness that they've been experiencing recently? Anybody notice any unhappiness going on in the world? None. Okay, well, good. Okay, so that's what we're going to hear about today. So it says, so the lesson is lesson 71, only God's plan for happiness will work. And whatever it is, your form of happiness today is, when you see the word salvation, put that in there. Health, wealth, joy, love, whatever it is. You know, sometimes I'll say the word happiness. Sometimes I'll say happiness, health, and wealth, just to make sure we all remember, you know, that what we're talking about here. All right, we're talking about happiness that includes everything that you feel like that you would include, that would contribute to your happiness. Okay, so it says this: you may not realize that the ego has set up a plan for happiness in opposition to God's plan. Okay, that's right. We don't realize that, because I thought my plan was a good plan. He said, you don't realize your plan for happiness is exactly the opposite to God's plan. That's right. We don't realize that. Then it says, and it is our plan that's opposite to God's plan for happiness in which we believe. That's right. I believe that what I'm doing right now will work to make me happy. That's why I'm doing it. Okay? Not realizing that my plan for happiness is the exact opposite of God's plan for my happiness. And that's why I'm not happy yet. Now, since our plan for happiness is the exact opposite of God's, you also believe that to accept God's plan in place of your plan is to be damned. So I believe that to give up my plan for happiness is to lose, right? So I got this plan. I'm pretty sure it'll work, even though it never has before, ever, to make me happy. But so we believe that to give up our plan for happiness in favor of God's is to lose somehow. Like, I can't give up my plan for happiness because, you know, I don't know what God's got planned, you know. So I'm going to have to cling to my old plan for happiness, even though it has not made me fully happy yet. Okay. He's telling us what we believe. He goes, now, this idea that for you to accept God's plan in place of your plan is to somehow lose, this sounds preposterous, of course. Yet after we have considered just what the ego's plan is, perhaps you will realize that however preposterous your plan for happiness may be, you do believe your plan for happiness. You believe that to give up your plan for happiness is to somehow lose, right? That's what we believe. And it's insane. If I give up my plan in favor of God's plan, which cannot fail, I'm going to somehow lose. Even though your plan has only produced loss. You know, what have my plans for happiness produced? A lot of disappointment, a lot of grievances, a lot of sense of betrayal, a lot of sense of loss. Am I leaving anything out? Did I mention grievances? Okay. Yes. Greg's like, I know some.
I want to interject this because it fits so perfectly to what Anna and I were talking about as far as, and when I say new people come to the course, I mean anybody that's been in the course in the last 5 years. You know, it's not like the first week or something. But when you come into the course, your plan was so horrible for bringing you peace into your life that when we come to the course and say, okay, Spirit, I'm done, you lead the way. And then what you were talking about that yesterday to me is absolutely right. It seems like all hell breaks loose. This, all of a sudden, this whole group of friends is no more in your experience, and you're like, what is going on? And this is happening at the job, and it seems like chaos. And it's like, I came to God, and this is what's happening because God is having to dismantle all of my plans that I've been building all these years for my happiness that will fail.
That have failed.
And now it's all being undone so that God's plan can come and replace that plan.
Right.
It's a season of very traumatic
right. We believe that to lose our plan is to be damned.
Yeah.
And so you come to the course and like, now, I hate to break it to you, but your plan has failed. And to us, that's like all of our plans and fantasies demolished. It's like, we're like, God, I want your plan. And the next thing you know, the wrecking ball comes to our life. And we're like, that's not what I was really thinking about when I came to A Course in Miracles.
I want your plan, but I want to keep mine.
And that's it. That's it. And so at the beginning of your walk on the course, you're trying to do your plan and God's plan. And then you wonder why you feel so confused and frustrated. You know, you're kind of being bipolar. Like you're going for your plan one day and God's plan the next day and your plan the next day. And then you're like, dang, I'm so frustrated and I'm exhausted. Okay. And that's why it's a miracle if anybody stays for very long after they come to start studying A Course in Miracles, especially as they come to this group. It's a miracle when people actually stay, because there is that initial part of like where your plans, are being dismantled. You're either laying them down or they're being dismantled. And that's scary because we're all been thinking, if I can just get my plan, I'll be happy, and so when those plans start being undone, it can be very frightening, very frustrating.
He's actually very clear about this in the manual for teachers, because the first stage that we go through he calls it a period of undoing.
A period of undoing. Perfect description. Yes.
Not be painful, but it's
yes.
So experienced.
Yes.
It seems as if things are being taken away.
Yes.
And it is rarely understood initially that the lack of value is merely being recognized. Exactly. That's right. Okay. So now it's going to kind of go through the makeup of our plans. Okay. And it's got to do this because this is how it increases our motivation to be willing to lay down our plans in favor of a plan for happiness that cannot fail. Okay. So now it's going to go through our plan. So here it goes. The ego's plan for happiness centers on holding grievances, period. Okay. So does anybody here have an ego? Okay. Okay. That means the part of you that's trying to get its needs met, it's trying to make itself happy through holding grievances. Now, what is a grievance? Okay. Do you think you know what a grievance is? Okay. Here's A Course in Miracles definition of a grievance. Okay. And this is the center. This is the foundation of the ego's plan for happiness. We could just go my plan for happiness. Okay. Right. So let's just call it what it is. Okay. The ego's plan, or my old plan for happiness, maintains that if somebody else spoke or acted differently, if some external circumstance or event were changed, you'd be happy. That's it. That's a grievance. The grievance isn't, well, you did this to me and you hurt me and da-da-da, now I need to get revenge. Okay. A grievance is your belief and your plan that if somebody else spoke or acted differently, if some external circumstance were changed or different, you would be happy. If this were different, I'd be happy. If you were different, I'd be happy. That's a Course in Miracles definition of a grievance. And because you may go, well, I don't have any grievances. I love everybody. But, but are you frustrated and upset when some people act in a way you don't like? What happens when things don't go your way? Are you like, oh, beautiful, thy will be done? Don't lie. Because if you do, I'm going to ask your friends, and they'll tell me the truth. Okay, so our plan, he goes, I know that sounds preposterous to be told that your plan for happiness is to get everybody else but you to change. He goes, I know that sounds preposterous to be told that's your plan for happiness. He goes, but that's what your plan for happiness is. When you hear somebody say that, you'd be like, that's preposterous. I don't believe that everybody else got to change for me to be happy. That's preposterous. That's not my plan. But he goes, but it is, right? He says, so in your old plan for happiness, the source of happiness, I'm on paragraph 2, sentence 3. Thus, the source of happiness in your old plans is constantly perceived as outside yourself. Where's the source of my happiness? Not in me. It's in them acting differently, this being different. Somebody got to change. Something's got to be different for me to be happy. The source of my happiness is constantly perceived as outside myself in my old plans for happiness. And so each grievance that we hold is a declaration and an assertion in which you believe that says, if this were different, I would be happy. And so in your old plans, the change of mind which is necessary for happiness is thus demanded of everyone and everything except yourself. That sounds preposterous. That's not my plan. Even though it sounds preposterous, that's what we believe. And you know how we know? Because look at all the frustration and all the grievances that seem to be a part of all of our relationships. And so to think that that is at the core of all of our upset, every single one of our upset, every single one of our grievances, all of our anger, all of our resentment, all of that sense of betrayal, it all comes down to that. It all comes down to, I believe that my happiness depends on other people changing and other situations outside of me being different. If I didn't have that belief, that if that was not my plan for happiness, then it wouldn't matter what happened. I'd be like, I'm sustained by the love of God. Oh, it's so wonderful that I'm complete, I'd be happy no matter what happened. No matter what people did, no matter what happened, I would be happy. I would feel safe. I would feel secure. I would know that I'm connected to the source of abundance always. I would know that I am created by God, not that person. How happy would you be if you accepted the fact that your reality is established by God, not that person that you're upset with? You'd be so happy. As you can see, God's plan for happiness is that you accept the truth about yourself so that you would know that your identity and reality is created by God and cannot be affected by anyone or what anybody says or does or thinks about you. That's God's plan. If you knew the truth about yourself, you'd never be upset about what people said or people did. You'd be like, I'm so glad that God created me and they didn't. You'd be rejoicing. You'd be happy. Okay. You would know my abundance and my supply comes from the universe that was created as unlimitedly abundant. You would know that your abundance, your supply, your love, your joy doesn't come from anyone or anything outside yourself. That's God's plan for your happiness, that you accept the truth about yourself. And stop looking for your happiness in people, places, and things being different. All right. Everybody take a breath. Let's take a breath. Sounds preposterous, doesn't it? When you hear about our plan, when the Course in Miracles actually says what our plan is, it's like, no, that sounds preposterous, right? That would mean I was crazy. If that was my plan for happiness, that would mean I was crazy. And it would also explain why I haven't achieved full-on fulfillment yet. Where I'm still like, oh, if this were different, I'd be happy. Oh, when I get this, I'll be happy. Oh, when I get them, I'll be happy. Oh, when I get this, I'll be happy. When I have this, I'll be happy. Which means you got to wait for happiness, which means you got to pay for happiness, which means somebody's got to change for happiness for you to be happy. This means a lot of stuff has got to happen for you to be happy. And it's got to be it's in the future.
Then I got to worry that it might evaporate if I do.
And then if you do get it, then now you got to worry about keeping it, you know, and not to lose it and hoping that somebody don't come take it from you. So that's why our plan for happiness has only failed, can only fail. And, you know, and that's actually the good news, because that gives you hope. Because I was like, oh, well, there is no hope. There's no hope for happiness. No, there's lots of hope. You just been looking in the wrong place. It's not that there's not happiness to be had. It's not that there's love and abundance to be had. It's that you just been looking in the wrong place. Hey, baby, welcome. Work it. Come on down. All right. Okay. Okay, great. So now paragraph 3, the role assigned to your own mind. Okay, so we're still talking about our plans for happiness that have failed us. And it says, still speaking about our old plans for happiness, the role assigned to your own mind then in your old plan for happiness is simply to determine what other than your mind itself must change if you are to be happy. That's the role that we give into our minds in our old plans for happiness. What besides me got to change for me to be happy? That's the role given to your mind. Mind, I want you to figure out, I want you to use all your big brain power, mind, to figure out what besides me got to change. That's the role given to our minds in our old plan for happiness. All right, so all the unlimited power of our own minds is being wasted on trying to find happiness outside of us. What beside me got to change for me to be happy? Wow, what a waste. Okay. So in my plans for happiness, I'm wasting the real power of my mind. So then it says, according to our insane plan, any perceived source of happiness is acceptable provided it won't work. Okay, now, what would you say of a plan that goes, okay, my plan for happiness is that anything that would work to make me happy, I don't want to do. Okay, how would you call that plan? Insane. In my plan for happiness, anything that would actually work, like me changing my own mind and accepting the truth by myself, that won't work. But any plan that goes and looks for happiness and getting people, places, and things to change outside me, that's great. We're going to go with that one. Okay, that was our plan. So in our plan, what does it say? It says, I love it. Any perceived source of happiness is acceptable, provided it won't work to make me happy.
I can hear the board meeting in my head right now. Well, Frank, will it work or not? Damn it. No, it won't.
Okay, sign it up. Sign me up. Sign me up. Wow. Okay. Oh, that's interesting. Okay. Mary, I'm on my other Facebook channel. So if you want to watch me on Facebook, go to my other page. So, okay. I'm only on my pro page. So, all right. Hi, Mary. Hi, Irene. Hi, Trisha. Hi, Jane. Lovely to see you all here online. Welcome. Okay. Now, if your plan for happiness is going to be anything that doesn't work to make you happy, then this ensures that your fruitless search for happiness will continue. Why? Because with your old plan for happiness, the illusion persists in your mind that although this hope has failed, there are still grounds for hope in other places and in other things. You know, a different person will serve better. You know, a different situation will yet offer hope. In my plan goes like this. I'm going to look for happiness in everybody and everything changing around me, everything besides my own mind. And then when it doesn't work and I'm still not happy, then I'm going to continue my fruitless search by going, oh, well, the reason I wasn't happy with that person and situation changing is because it just wasn't the right person. It just wasn't the right place. It just wasn't the right job. It just wasn't the right you know who, you know what. Okay, which this is the illusion persisting in my own mind that yes, that the source of my happiness is still going to be outside of myself in yet a different person or a different situation. Yes.
Isn't this the reason why when we are having difficulty dealing with a situation, we decide to like remove ourselves, like move, find a different job, whatever, only to find the same situation differently?
Yes, exactly. That's what it's talking about. You know, yes. So instead of going, oh, I've been seeking my happiness outside myself and that person changing and it didn't work, I guess that maybe I should look within. Instead of that, we're like, oh, they just weren't the right person. I need to go find a different person. Or I need to go find a different job. Or I need to go move to a different place. Right. And that's because the illusion persists in our mind that our happiness is where it is not. Okay? And in our plan, any plan is acceptable to us provided it won't work. So unless you're telling me what other person or what other situation or event needs to change, I'm not going to be listening to you. I'm going to say that person doesn't know what they're talking about. Okay. So then it says, now we're in paragraph 4. Such is our old plan, such is the ego's plan for your happiness. Okay. That we've just laid it out. Such is your plan, your old plan for happiness. Surely you can see how your plan is in strict accord with the ego's basic doctrine, which is seek, but don't find. That's the ego's basic doctrine. Okay. That's the ego's rule. I want you to seek and seek and seek and seek and seek, but do not find. That's the ego's basic doctrine. Okay? And so surely the ego's plan is in accordance with, I want you to seek your face off, but don't find happiness. Okay? And I can relate to that. You know, I can relate to somebody who was like seeking here, seeking there, seeking everywhere, but still not experiencing happiness, health, and wealth. You know, still experiencing a lot of pain and frustration and disappointment and despair and depression and all those things. And to think that all those things, despair, depression, fear, frustration, betrayal, anger, to think that they all come from the same thing. They all come from seeking my happiness outside of myself. You know, I think my fear and frustration and depression and anger and grievances, I was just sure that they came from out there. you know, because it's a crazy world and there's a lot of lack in the world. There's a lot of lack of love in the world. No, that's not where all of that unhappiness, all of it came because I was looking for that. I was looking for that, not realizing I was really looking for despair, depression, anger, upset, grievances. To think that they all came just because I was looking for happiness outside of me. Yes.
I think this gets more complex for me when I have some, like, the whole world doesn't reflect this, right? When there's like parts of life that I feel really good and then parts that aren't so good.
Mm-hmm.
And that gets more confusing for me when I'm like, well, you know, where it's like, then it's easier to keep like projecting it out and saying it's out there. So I'm like, but this is going really well.
Right.
Or there's this there's like a really common sentiment, I think, sometimes in our society that like, oh, it's not that bad. Oh, it's okay. Like we just are okay with like it being like not the perfect happiness.
Right.
It's like there's some good and some bad, and we can accept that.
Right.
So that, like, gets more
Right. So, okay. So our belief is that happiness can entail some lack and upset and unhappiness.
But like, oh, but it's also like there's some good. Like
Right.
not everything.
Right.
And so
right.
I'm like, oh, I just have to tolerate these bad things. Like most of this feels okay.
Right. Exactly. And so, A Course in Miracles would define real happiness as lasting happiness. So let's say something seems to go right, and I'm like, oh, this is great. It went my way. The Course would not say that's happiness, because what if it didn't go your way? You know. And so A Course in Miracles says real happiness is lasting happiness. So happiness that doesn't last wasn't real happiness. You know. And wherever you are experiencing lasting happiness, A Course in Miracles would say that's because that is someplace where you have accepted that, you know, you have what you need within you. Okay. That's one place where you're like, oh, okay, I've got that love within me, so I'm good. Okay. All right, thanks for saying that. Okay, great. So then it says, for what could more surely guarantee you will not find happiness than to channel all your efforts into searching for where happiness is not? Okay, that's what our plan for happiness had been. I'm going to look everywhere, and I mean everywhere. And I'm going to pay a lot of money to do it. But where it is within me, where my Creator, who loves me, has placed it. The Course in Miracles, the Course in Miracles tells us that happiness and peace of mind and joy and abundance was built in. That's how we were created. The Course in Miracles has us tell ourselves in the workbook, joy created me joyful. Happiness created me happy. Abundance created me abundant. Peace created me peaceful. The Course in Miracles says this radical thing, like that was all built in. That was built in. Why? Because God is love. Because God loves God's creation. So God is not, if God is love, God's not going to create God's creation missing the part that gives you peace. It's like, oh, my beloved creation, I'm going to create you, but I'm going to leave out the peace part. I'm going to leave out the happiness part. You got to go look for that and pay for it. That's not a loving God. And of Course in Miracles tells us God is love and created us as only a loving creator would do, which has created us with all that happiness, peace, joy, abundance, eternal life built in, so that we don't have to go look for it outside of ourselves and pay for it and have to sacrifice for it. Yes, Gentry.
In our constant search for happiness, I often think to my experience in 2018 of going to Kenya.
Okay.
And I spent 2 weeks with the Maasai, which is one of the most ancient indigenous tribes still in existence.
Mm-hmm.
And they have literally nothing. They have no paved streets. They live in mud huts. They have no electricity, no plumbing. You know, their kids run around half naked. They play with ropes and tires for toys. And they're some of the happiest people I've ever met.
Yep. Yep.
And it just makes me think, as we're talking about this lesson, you know, when I came back, it was such a culture shock.
Mm-hmm.
The perfectly paved roads and manicured lawns, and yet we're so unhappy and miserable. We have everything. but we're so miserable.
Right.
And I just think, there's so many other cultures that have built into their society. The Japanese call it ikigai, which is the pursuit of happiness, their purpose.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of cultures don't believe in depression
Mhm.
because they see it as that just means that you have not found fulfillment and purpose.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really a matter of choice and perception, and how are we choosing to perceive our reality. But our culture has widely created this normality of depression, anxiety,
That's
anger, lack,
That's right.
all those things.
That's exactly right. Yeah, because we have been taught that we are empty. We've been taught from day one, for probably lifetimes, that perfect love, which means complete love, does not exist in us. That's what we've been taught. Perfect love, that's somewhere out there. You got to go find it and pay for it. Right? So, of course, in Miracles is reminding us all, hey, perfect love exists in you. Perfect love is in you. And that's the only place that you're going to find it. And of course, in Miracles says that, so let's say God, perfect joy has created me perfectly joyous. Peace has created me peaceful. Abundance has created me abundant. Then why don't I know? Why don't I know that? Okay. I hear you saying that, but why don't I know that? The Course in Miracles says that until you are giving joy, peace, abundance, love, you will not know it's in there. And what have we been giving besides all that? What have we been giving besides love, joy, mercy, peace, forgive? What have we been given? We've been given grievances. We've been saying, hey, if you love me, you'll give me that. If you love me, you do this for me. What have we been giving? Grievances. What have we been giving? Guilt. And so that's why we don't know perfect love is in us. That's why we don't know we have everything within us. That's why we don't know we have the peace, the joy, the abundance, because we're not giving it. And it said, the Course in Miracles says, giving is the proof of having. So you don't really know what you have within you. You don't know your internal resources until you're sharing, until you're giving peace, giving joy, giving abundance to others. So it's impossible that you not have. It is impossible that you not have, because God is love. But it is possible for you to not know you have. Yes.
And to tie up back in Heather's point, if I'm in that transition phase where I'm still listening to my ego and God's plan, and I'm giving both guilt and love,
Yes.
guilt and happiness, peace, my experience is going to be therefore mixed.
That's right.
And it's going to be confusing to me to try to figure out why I'm happy sometimes and why I'm very unhappy other times, because I'm alternating back and forth between plans.
That's exactly right. And we're at the place now where at least we're alternating between the two plans. At least we've heard God's plan, and we're sometimes trying to use God's plan. It used to be we were only doing our plan, but at least now, so in that point where you're feeling bipolar, like, oh, some days it works, some days it doesn't, is, that's progress. Right. So, yes, did you want to say?
The lesson, and I'm sure you'll know what it is, but this reminds me, and I was really delving into this, and I was trying to make peace with the relationship with my mom. And it was like, well, what do you want from your mom? And it's like, well, I want unconditional love and acceptance. And all of a sudden, this big light came on. Oh. So if I give her unconditional love and acceptance, then I get it back.
Right.
So she doesn't have to do anything different.
Right. And by giving the unconditional love and acceptance, you realize you have it.
You have it by giving it.
Right. And you have it instead of, oh, well, if I give it to her, she'll give it back to me. You'll realize you have it, and then you'll realize you don't need it from her. And then what happens to her? All of a sudden, she's giving you unconditional love and acceptance. What happens when you stop needing something from somebody? All of a sudden, they're like, hey, let me give it to you. Right. Okay. Beautiful. Okay. So then it says, now we're in paragraph 5. So God's plan for your happiness works simply because by following God's direction, you seek for happiness where it is. But if you are to succeed, as God promises you will, you must be willing to seek only there, where happiness really is. Otherwise, if you're going to seek for happiness where it's not, then your purpose is divided, which means you're going to attempt to follow 2 plans for happiness, which are diametrically opposite in all ways. And you trying to follow 2 plans that for happiness that are opposite can only bring confusion, misery, and a deep sense of failure and despair. Has anybody ever experienced any confusion, misery, and a deep sense of failure and despair? Okay. All right, 1 person, 1 honest person. Okay, 2 honest people. All right. Okay, 3. Okay. Okay. You go ahead.
I just think this goes back to what you said earlier, that this is why.
Yes.
Trying
to follow 2 plans.
Start studying this,
Yes,
that,
right.
Like, suddenly you're not like on this comfortable path where you're like everything's good enough.
Yes.
Okay, you're like
You're trying to.
realizing like, oh, I actually do. It feels like more lack and more like I
Mhm.
think more things just come to our awareness, and it does actually feel more despairing than
Yes.
before you start studying it.
Exactly. And that's why, like Greg and I were talking about earlier, that sometimes when you come and you start studying A Course in Miracles, sometimes it feels like your despair, deep sense of loss and misery and failure seems to increase. Has anybody ever experienced that? It's like, here I am studying the Course in Miracles, but yet I'm like, why am I feeling more sense of confusion, despair, and misery? And it explains it. Why? Because now you're trying to follow 2 plans for happiness, but these plans are completely opposite. So literally, it's like having, 1 foot in 2 worlds, and those worlds are both are spreading apart, and you're like, you're trying to follow 2 plans that are exactly opposite. Well, if you're trying to follow 2 plans for happiness, which are exactly opposite, then what could you experience but a sense of failure and despair and confusion? So here I am in A Course in Miracles, and I'm like, oh, the happiness is within me. God created me complete. Oh, this is wonderful. But at the same time, in your relationships, you're still like, if you were different, I'd be happy. Still trying to get people to change through guilt. And so like you're trying to do 2 opposite plans for happiness, and he says, and if the result can only bring confusion, misery, and a deep sense of failure and despair. Okay, well, that explains a lot. Okay, well, speaking of confusion, misery, and a deep sense of failure and despair, how can you escape all of that confusion, deep sense of failure and misery and despair? How can we escape all that? Anybody like to escape all that? Okay. Thank you, God, for even saying there's a way. Okay, that's good news. Now you got my attention. Talk to me about something I can relate to. Despair, deep sense of failure, and misery and confusion. Okay, something I can relate to. How can we escape all that confusion, misery, despair? It's very simple, period. The idea for today is the answer. Has anybody got any confusion and sense of failure and despair and misery that they would like to escape today? Okay, thank you. Okay, today's idea is the answer. Today's idea is the escape. And what is today's idea? It's this: only God's plan for your happiness will work. That's it. That's the answer. If you're experiencing misery and deep sense of failure and misery and despair, it's because you've been following your own plan for happiness. You've been looking for something outside you to change, trying to get people to change through guilt. Okay? And the answer and the escape from all that is only God's plan for your happiness will work. Now, there can be no real conflict about this because there is no possible alternative to God's plan that will make you happy. I'm going to say that again. There is no alternative to God's plan for your happiness that will ever make you happy. And maybe you think that, oh, I just haven't tried enough. Maybe I just haven't tried enough people. Maybe I haven't tried enough jobs. Maybe I haven't tried enough.
I think we get a little lost too, knowing what true happiness is when we substitute it for what we're used to doing, or what has always worked. I'll go ride my bike, I'll go
Yes, right.
walk somewhere and get distracted.
Mm-hmm.
And then we kind of ease up from our despair.
Yes,
and
that's
we
right.
think we're at a place of happiness.
Right. And that's why I started off by saying it's a happiness that doesn't leave anything out. You know, it's a happiness that doesn't leave anything out, right? And also, and then the Course in Miracles defines real happiness, real joy, real love as something that you don't have to worry about losing. It doesn't end. It lasts. Real means lasting. Real joy, lasting joy. Like, you know, riding your bike. Oh, this makes me happy. Okay, well, are you happy what happens if your bike, breaks down? Are you still happy? So happy, of course, in Miracles defines real happiness as lasting. Okay. Real happiness is something that it doesn't matter what changes around you, you still feel. And another great word for happiness is fulfillment. Do you feel fulfilled? Or are you still like, oh, I need this, or I need that, or I wish I had this, or I wish I had that, or I need some of that? Okay. So happiness is where you're not dominated by that feeling of lack and need. Okay.
And that interconnection.
Yes, and feeling connected. Absolutely. Absolutely. Not feeling like, oh, I need connection, or I lack connection, or I lack purpose, or lack love, or lack abundance, or whatever. Okay, beautiful. Okay, so the answer and the escape from all that sense of failure, misery, confusion is today's lesson. Only God's plan for my happiness will work, and there is no other plan for your happiness that will make you happy, period. In other words, God's is the only plan that is certain in its outcome, because God's is the only plan that must succeed to make you happy. All right. Okay. Now remember, so what is God's plan? Let's review for a moment. What is God's plan that cannot fail, that must succeed? If I use only that, it's this. It's that if you look for happiness where it is, you're going to find it. That's God's plan. It's real simple. It's real simple. Look for it where it is, and you will find it. And where is it that God put it? Where did God put it? Inside you, where you can't lose it. God knew, it's like, if I don't put that happiness in Anna, she's going to lose it. That was really good, God, because you know how I am about losing stuff. And so that's why the Course in Miracles is always saying, seek not outside yourself. Seek not outside yourself. God placed your happiness where you could not lose it, within you, And I know that it sounds, when you hear it, you're like, duh, I mean, what am I, stupid? I wouldn't say stupid, but, would say looking in all the wrong places. And so, the last thing that we think to do when things don't go our way, the last thing we think to do is go, let me close my eyes and go within a minute and talk to my Creator and see what my Creator has to say about this. How often is that our first problem-solving approach? How often do we go, oh, let me just close my eyes and look within for a minute. God, is it true that I lack for love and I don't have love unless another body's with me? He'll do whatever I want them to do. Is that true, God? How often is it we go within and actually ask God if the lack that we perceive is really true? Thank you. Never. Until we want to be happy more than we want to be right. then are like, well, okay, I know how this story goes. They are, that old story of like, oh, I'll get them to change and then I'll be happy. That old plan, I'll get them to change. If I could just give them enough guilt about what they're doing, they'll change what they're doing and I'll be happy. And even when people are like, okay, I'll take that guilt and I'll change so you be happy. Does it really make us happy? Exactly. Then you're like, well, now I need you to change. Like, now I need you to do something else different. Now I'm upset about something else that you're doing. It never works. You would think that, as mature adults as we are, you'd think we go, that doesn't work. I've been trying that same old plan, that same old worn out plan my whole life, trying to get people to change, thinking that will make me happy. And I use a lot of guilt, and even if they are going to try, I'm still not happy. Now I'm upset about something else. You would think that eventually we would get it. That plan don't work.
One of the things that I love about the workbook lessons is that they give us a practice we can practice.
Yes.
Right? And so, like you asked your question, how often do we?
Mm-hmm.
My answer would not now be never.
Right.
Right? That's not true of me.
Right.
I probably more often than not.
That's right. Very good.
But I don't always.
Right.
Right. But it's practice.
Right.
And
Because of the workbook.
Right. And so what it does is it gives us an opportunity to expand our awareness of when we're doing it in a healthy way that benefits us as well.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're not encouraged to degrade our effort.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Say, I'm not there. We're encouraged to recognize where we are
Mm-hmm.
so that we can continue to grow with practice.
Exactly. And that is exactly what the purpose of the workbook is to give you practice. Because of the workbook would then say, now I want you to think about whoever you're upset about. Okay, their name has already crossed your mind. Now I want you to, then it tells you how to practice this so that you start looking for your own happiness and completion within yourself. Okay? And I really love about this where it's letting us know that whenever you are experiencing a deep sense of failure or misery or upset or grievance or anger or confusion, it tells you exactly what you must be doing. It tells you exactly why. It must be because you are looking for your happiness outside of yourself. And so now it's like, okay, that's what's really going on. And so instead of being like, I'm miserable, I'm unhappy, I'm confused, let me go get something outside myself to change. Now you're like, oh, I must be searching outside myself. I must be searching outside myself. Let me go within and look for happiness where my Creator put it, which is somewhere where I could never lose it. Right? Always have access to it for free. For free. Don't forget the for free part. No subscription necessary that you got to try to figure out how to cancel later.
The tricky thing, though, is if you're not careful, you'll go within and you'll convince yourself that whatever you're telling yourself is your ego is the truth, that I'm bad, I'm not good enough, I'm not worthy. So even though you're going within, you still have to, you go within, you go, oh, there's all this stuff in here.
Right.
You know what I'm
That
saying?
just means you haven't gone within deep enough.
Yeah.
When you start, I talked about this last time I taught, when you start to look within, your ego, the first thing that will happen is your ego will try to show you all the terrible things that you think about yourself that the ego says this is you, to make sure you stop looking within. The Course in Miracles says that the ego, this is what I talked about 2 weeks ago, where the ego says, if you look within, my friend, then what you see will fill you with such horror that you will try to kill yourself, that you will rush to death by your own hand. That's how dark what is within you is, says our ego. And so the workbook teaches us how to go within, and when the ego defenses come up, to looking within, it teaches you how to continue to go beneath them, go underneath them, or push them aside like clouds out of the way, right? So that you can get to the light that is within you, that is you. So thanks for saying that. Thank you. The ego speaks first and loudest. Okay. So, yes. Okay, great. All right, here we go. So then, so now we're in paragraph 7. Speaking of practice, let us practice recognizing this certainty today that only God's plan for our happiness will succeed. Let us practice recognizing this certainty today. And how do we do that? Well, let's start by rejoicing that there is actually an answer to what seemed to be a conflict with no resolution possible. We'll start with that. Thank you, God, that there is a resolution to my conflict to which I thought that no resolution was possible. So we'll start with that. Okay? That's how we're going to start our practicing today. And that's because all things are possible to God. All peaceful things, all joyous things, all abundant things, all safe things are possible to God. So that's how we're starting our practice today, by celebrating that. Okay? Then it says, and the reason is because happiness must be yours because of God's plan, which cannot fail. Okay, I love how he goes, happiness must be yours. It's going to be, it's inevitable. I don't know if you know this, but your happiness, your complete fulfillment, it is inevitable. It's just a matter of like, do you want it today or later? I mean, you're totally free, but it is inevitable. You are going to be happy. It's just a matter of when. Yeah. Do you want it now, today, on this gorgeous day? Or do you want to wait another few years of misery and disappointment while you're trying to get your plan accomplished, which has always failed? But who cares? There's no time. God's not like, yes.
It's the law of the harvest. So if you plant the seeds, you water it, eventually it has no choice but to grow. But
Yes.
a lot of us try to dig up the seeds and check on it, like, why aren't you growing yet?
Yes. Yes. Yes, exactly. So this is a plan for your happiness that cannot fail if you use it. That's the only catch. The universe, because the universe is loving, it doesn't force its love and its abundance on you. Now, the ego forces its will on you. It don't care what you want. But God and the loving, abundant universe doesn't force its loving, abundant will on you. So, so you will not experience the abundance of it until you say, that is the plan I want. I want God's plan. Okay. And the practice is like that. It goes in here, and also in the next lesson 72, the practice is, okay, follow the clues. I'm feeling anger, frustration, grievance, upset, hurt, confusion, misery, deep sense of failure and despair. Okay, that means I must be trying to follow my own plan. Okay, and then the workbook teaches us how to lay down our plan and then say, God, what's your plan for my happiness that cannot fail if I accept it? That's the practice. And that's what these 2 workbook lessons are helping us to do. Go, okay, so what we want to do is we now want to redefine the misery, the deep sense of failure, anger, confusion, upset, brokenness, sickness, whatever's not happy. We want to redefine them as not who failed me again, but that means I've been searching outside myself. So first of all, notice the upset. That's the first part. Notice the upset. Reinterpret it according to the Course. This means I must be seeking outside myself. And then consciously lay down your plan. Go, that didn't work. And then say, God, what is your plan for my happiness? Tell me, I don't know. Okay. And then that part is in lesson 72. But it's going to take us through the practice. So here's how you do it. Paragraph 8. So we're going to begin the 2 longer practice periods today by thinking about today's idea and realizing that today's idea, only God's plan for my happiness will work, contains 2 parts. Each part of today's lesson making equal contribution to the whole lesson. And here's the 2 parts. Part 1, God's plan for your happiness will work. That's part 1. Okay? Ready for part 2? Other plans won't. That's part 2. 2 parts to the plan, and both parts make equal contribution to your happiness. Only God's plan for my happiness will work, and all my other plans won't. And we're practicing this today. This is what we're practicing today. Now, don't allow yourself to become depressed or angry at the second part. I like that first part. God's plan for my happiness will work, but I don't like the second part. My plans won't. Every other plan won't work. You say, because he knows we're tempted to get depressed and angry, when we hear that our plans aren't going to work to make us happy. Okay, even though they never have before, right? And so he said, don't allow yourself to become depressed or angry at the second part, because the second part, other plans won't work, is inherent in the first. And in the first part, only God's plan for your happiness will work, is your full release from all your own insane attempts and mad proposals to free yourself. Tell me if you recognize this. All your plans for happiness have led to depression and anger. Thank you. That's what depression and anger is. It's your warning label. Big old black box warning label. Warning, your plans will lead to depression and anger. I don't know if you've noticed. Okay, so what does depression and anger mean? I'm following my own plan. I'm depressed and angry because I'm following my own plan, and my plans don't work. My plans, every single one of them, lead to depression and anger. Every one of them. I'm depressed because I'm still not happy after all I did to get that person to change. And I'm angry because after all I did to get them to change, I'm still not happy. Okay, so depression and anger means I'm following my own plan that never has worked and never will. It says, so all my plans have led to depression and anger, but God's plan for happiness will succeed. What does that mean? That means God's plan will lead to release and joy. Okay? Not an if, not a maybe, it will. So remembering this, let us devote the remainder of the extended practice period to asking God to reveal God's plan to us. So how do you do that? How do you ask God to reveal God's plan to you? Okay, well, you ask these very specific questions. We love specific questions. So we say, God, I'm specifically asking you, God, what would you have me do? Where would you have me go? What would you have me say, and to whom? Okay, see the practice period for finding out what God's plan for your happiness is. Okay, and then once you have asked God very specifically these questions, then the practice is now give God full charge of the rest of the practice period. What does that mean? That means let God tell you. Now actually let God tell you what needs to be done by you in God's plan for your happiness. Okay, so there's 2 parts. God, what is your plan for my happiness? And then where you actually let God tell you. You actually let God answer you. We're good at oh God, blah, 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 blah. But we're not good at letting God tell you, letting God answer you. Okay, but that's the practice. We're practicing asking God very specifically these questions. What do you want me to do in your plan for me to be happy, which cannot fail? And then we're going to let God answer us. And by the way, God will answer us in proportion to our willingness to hear God's voice. Okay, anybody ever felt like, well, I ask, but I never hear? Anybody ever had that thought? I ask, but I never hear. That would have to mean that your willingness to hear is puny right now, because you're really still hoping that you're going to get your plan. We're practicing this, but we're still secretly like, yeah, but maybe. Yes.
Anna, aren't the second two questions inherent in the first? Sometimes when I'm really in despair because I just love Ego's plan.
Yes.
Seriously, to remember, where would you have me go? What would you have me say and do? Can't I just say, what would you have me do if I'm just feeling so, like, aren't the second two inherent in the first, or no?
Sure. I would go with whatever it says to do. You know what I'm saying? Even if you think you got a better idea, I would say just try that one out, see what happens. Yeah. So, yes, Carla.
And I think that is one of those ways that ego loves to change God's plan so it fits our plan.
Yes,
Right?
indeed.
And because each of those questions is inherently different part of our psyche, actually, that it touches.
Thank you.
And so it's three different aspects of my being with these questions. But our ego does want to say, well, there's got to be a shortcut to what God's asked me to do. So let's get the shortcut.
Thank you. Thank you.
I love you.
Yeah, Carla knows.
When
Mhm.
I read this, I immediately go, my ego goes, oh, what do you want me to do? Where am I gonna go? What am I supposed to be doing? Fix.
I see.
Right? So the
Okay.
ego can take something that seems so simple and
Right.
just turn it into the doing
Yes.
instead of the being.
Yes, right. Absolutely. Exactly. Well, and also our higher self knows that unless God says, go do this, go say this, we're probably not going to listen. You know, our higher self knows. But what our higher self is going to do, it's not going to be telling us to say this or do this in a way where we're still seeking outside of ourself. There's a very good chance that when we hear God telling us very specifically where to go, what to do, and what to say, and to whom, that it's going to be offering to other people the things that we've been trying to get from them through guilt. So you may hear Spirit say, you know, all that love you've been trying to get from you know who, by trying to get them to change, why don't you go give them some love? Oh, okay. You know, so like you were saying, all the unconditional love you were trying to get from your mother, your higher self may say, why don't you go give that to them and see what happens? Okay, so, you know, so it's still leading us to the same place, which is the awareness that all the love, all the joy, all the abundance, all the peace is within us, built in, ready to set us free and make us completely happy right now for free. Yes, Gentry.
Just a little share. So about a month ago, he gave me the gift of reviewing this lesson.
That's right.
Over the phone.
That's right.
And so I took that to heart and I started a God journal, what I call it. And I like efficiency. I'm a Virgo. I can't help it. So I do just write, what would I do / say, / It's all in one question.
Yes.
Sometimes it is a very clear solution to a problem, undirected, go do the thing, say the thing, do whatever, take this action.
Yes.
Other times it's just trust.
Yes.
Be still.
Right.
Peace. I've got this handled.
Yes.
Just do nothing.
That's right.
And trust that I have it.
That's right. That's
So
exactly right.
it's not necessarily, you know, God is a loving God. He's not
Yes.
trying to make our lives harder or more complicated. He knows each of us. He knows how to operate. He knows how to listen.
That's right.
And also just knowing that it's not always this challenge. It doesn't have to be this hard thing, although it might be.
Right.
Sometimes it's hard to do nothing.
Right. Exactly. And thank you for saying that. Yes.
You know, I kind of use this prayer generically, not necessarily for problems, but just at the beginning of the day, what would you have me do? You know, where would you have me go? But I think, you know, I've noticed sometimes my ego wants me to be busy and plan my day, like
Yes.
day is planned.
Yes.
And I'm doing this all day, and I don't have the space, you know, to allow God to direct me that day. So I'm trying to be more aware of that,
Yes.
just to have to have more space in my life.
Yes.
You know, to have God be able to tell me, there might be something that he wants me to do that day.
That's
but
right.
I'm too busy.
That's right. Doing it. Exactly. And would you say your names, introduce yourself to everybody?
Lisa.
Lisa, welcome. Thank you for being here. This is Lisa's first time here today. Beautiful. And that's exactly what I was going to say, is that the God's plan, the practice here is to stop making our own plans. The Course says that if you're not making decisions by yourself, you know, our plan was, I'll just see what I think I should do all day long. You know, that's the old plan, is not asking the source of your happiness, who has a plan for your happiness that cannot fail. And the Course tells us that God's plan for your happiness takes full account of where you're at in space and time, what your specific needs are, you know, where you're at. You know, God's plan knows exactly what you need in space and time. And so the whole practice here is to start, instead of you going off and making your plans for happiness, even though all your plans have failed, is to instead, before you go off and make your own plans and decide for yourself what makes you happy, even though you obviously don't know, is to ask, and ask very specifically. That's the practice.
One of the things this lesson has done for me, and I've had dialogues about this, is our ego always wants to have charge of the plan.
Mm-hmm.
And so this lesson gives us the opportunity to say, my plan is to figure out God's plan. God's plan.
Another Virgo.
Yeah.
Yes, right, exactly. Yes.
I will God's will.
Yeah.
And so that's one of the things I love about this, particularly this questioning section, is it kind of appeases the ego.
Exactly.
Because now the ego has a plan. Oh,
Oh, I got a plan.
Today because
Yes.
today I'm supposed to, now my ego's appeased. I'm doing a plan, but it's leading me where I need to go.
Exactly. And the Course in Miracles does say that Spirit uses the ego and uses the ego language to undo the ego. That's what a genius our teacher is. It uses your ego to undo your ego. And that's why it has you ask very, very specifically, where would you have me go? What would you have me do? What you'd say to whom? Yes. Yes, Andres.
In the book somewhere, it says a healed mind, it does not plan.
That's right.
And so whenever I think that I'm healed,
Yes.
I just think about that.
That's right. But it also says a healed mind doesn't plan, but it does receive the plan and follow the plan that it receives from God. That's what a healed mind does. Mm-hmm.
I would agree, but first you have to stop. And
Exactly. Exactly. That's right. If you want to hear, because remember that there's two parts to the plan. Only God's plan will work and mine won't. So that means that the practice means laying down your plan and then turning to God and asking God very specifically, what's God's plan, in acknowledgement that you don't know what God's plan for happiness for you. Okay, now I'm going to skip to paragraph 10. We're going to do the shorter practice of what to do when you're tempted to hold a grievance. Okay, so in other words, whenever you're tempted to seek outside of yourself to some person, place, or thing changing for you to be happy, when you're tempted to do that, it tells you what you can do instead. Okay, and it goes like this. It says in paragraph 10, in the shorter practice periods, tell yourself often that only God's plan for your happiness will work, and be alert to all temptation to hold grievances today. Okay, so every time I'm like, well, if they were different, I'd be happy. So anytime you're frustrated, angry, upset, you know, that's you being tempted to hold a grievance, okay, and work your plan for happiness. So be alert to all temptation to hold grievances today. And every time you notice you're tempted to hold a grievance, you need to respond to that temptation with this form of today's idea. You want to say to yourself, holding grievances is the opposite of God's plan for my happiness, and only God's plan for my happiness will work.
Okay. Now, let's memorize that, y'all, because how many times a day are we tempted to hold a grievance? Yeah. Now, how many times a day are we tempted to believe? How many times a day are we tempted to work our plan of getting someone or something to change, thinking that will make us happy? How many times a day? You can't even count. You cannot even count. You cannot count. But you could say every time I'm upset, that's what I'm doing. I'm tempted to hold a grievance. So memorize this, memorize it, write it down, put it on your mirrors, write it down, because this is how you can drop your old plan and accept a plan, God's plan, that will work to make you happy. Okay? Beautiful. For free. Don't forget that part. For free. No subscription needed. Okay. And then it says, try to remember the idea for some 6 or 7 times an hour. What? Don't you know how busy I am? Well, since Anna, you're tempted to say how busy you are, I want to tell you there could be no better way to spend a half a minute or less. A half a minute or less to experience total fulfillment, that's too much. I'm very busy making plans. They're only going to make me miserable. I can't do half a minute 7 times an hour for total fulfillment. I got plans to make. They're going to fail. I'm very busy. I need to be angry and depressed. I can't do 60 seconds or less for 7 times an hour for total fulfillment for free. I'm too busy for that.
I just have a logistical question.
Okay.
So 7 times an hour, am I saying to myself that holding grievances is the opposite of God's plan for salvation? 7 times.
Yes, you try to remember the idea for today, which is only God's plan for my happiness will work. Okay. Okay, great. And then the other part of the practice is be alert to your temptation to hold grievances today, which means to make a plan for somebody changing that you think will make you happy. Be alert to that temptation today. And when you like, oh my God, I'm working a grievance here, I'm working my plan, you say only God's plan for my happiness will work, and holding grievances is the opposite of God's plan for happiness, and only God's plan will work. Okay? Okay, great. Okay, so there you go. He says, yeah, there could be no better way to spend a half a minute or less than to remember the source of your happiness and to see your happiness where it is. Okay, so don't tell yourself you're too busy for that. All right. Okay, so we finished that. All right, guys. And it's 12:30. Let's do the love offering and some announcements, and then let's eat. All right. Thank you, Mary. Thank you, Mary, for all these beautiful comments. Okay. All right. Lay some announcements on us, baby.
That was amazing. That was
Thank
awesome.
you. Right on.
Oh, so first of all, I'm going to kind of go in date order because that's how I have it in my head. So today, George has his class at 1:30.